What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 27 of the Electric B2B show. Today with me is my co-host, Zoli Erkel. How you doing, Zoli?
Hey, everyone. Fun to be back once again.
Right, yeah, it's getting to be a regular, as you mentioned. Okay, today's topic is awesome because we're not going to be talking about account-based marketing, but it sure is going to feel like account-based marketing because it follows the same logic and it shares some of the same processes. And the reason why it's important to you is because it is about the core of your operations, namely getting talent for your company. And now just straight out of the gate, you know that getting talent for your company is a marketing issue on the one hand. Sure, it looks like a human resource issue, but that was until there was an abundance of talent on the market. But nowadays, with the great resignation, with people leaving companies and Generation Y folks leaving, staying on for very short amounts of time, keeping talent and attracting talent is beginning to be a huge challenge and a big issue. Okay, so what do we got today, Zoli? We've got a system for everybody that will make it easier for you to attract talent. And if you've been around us or around account-based marketing, it's going to look very familiar because it uses some of the same components, the same mindset, and it just changes things around a little bit. But the big lesson for today is that the same principles that you use for account-based marketing, you can apply to getting the best of the best talent out there.
Yeah.
Zoli.
So the interesting part about employer branding is that talent acquisition obviously generally is an HR function, but then employer branding is sort of the marketing side of that whole, recruitment and all of that comes with talent acquisition. And with that, what we see often is that companies tend to do the same sort of mistakes that they do with marketing, namely that they are trying to do the exact same thing that other companies are doing. And that's why you often, come across these just sort of almost template-like job ads, which is like, a general something about the company, then our requirements, then, the responsibilities, then there may be a general closing to the whole thing. And usually you have, almost these, at this point, meme-like phrases of whatever, like a European atmosphere.
European level salary.
Or European level salary, like young people and all of that, and
dynamic young team,
dynamic young peeps, and basically you see the same things everywhere, which obviously will mean that none of them will have any uniqueness to it, and so we see something similar that we see with marketing in general.
Exactly, yeah. So you need to treat employee acquisition with the same rigor that you would treat client acquisition. And the reason is simple. It's because it doesn't matter if you get more projects as a development company or more clients for your SaaS. If you don't have the people in-house to support those projects and to onboard those new people and to develop your product, all your marketing effort is going to just like run into the wall because it's going to be pointless after a point. And that's why so many clients have reached out to us. So like right after we've started doing marketing for them, they came with this little request that, hey guys, truth is we ain't got enough people. So unless we can get some more people on board, we're going to have to slow down on marketing because, we're getting so many leads and everything, but there's going to be nobody to service them. So that's why we have been starting to shift our attention to employer branding or employer marketing, if you will. And so we've started to apply the same principles with some pretty good success to attracting people to the company and not just clients.
Yeah. So one of the basic levels of this is that, as we said, this is more so a marketing function. This is more so something that marketing does usually. So obviously you will have something that is similar to like a proposition, a positioning with your brand. So you almost are doing the same thing of, trying to sell a product to a customer. But in this case, the product is pretty much, working with you or working at your company. And then the customers are usually the prospects, obviously. So the employees to be. And with that comes something that is, I think, a really good term, which is employee value proposition. So basically, what can you give as an employer and to the employees, to the prospects? And that, just on a very basic level, you can break that down to 3 levels, One is what you offer as an employer. So like, what are your strengths? Why do people like to work with you? Anything that is related to your offer as an employer. The second thing is your competitors' strengths. So, what is it that your competitors are doing great? And then what is unique compared to them at your business? And then the third one is the target group's preferences. So that would be the people, interested in you. Who are them, at a very basic level? And then what is it that they are looking for? And this is something that these three elements build up the employee value proposition, which is basically how you want to be positioning yourself as an employer.
Awesome. Okay, Zori, are there any prerequisites to this process that you have just described?
Yeah.
Or can people just use it straight out of the gate tomorrow morning and set up an employer marketing scheme, basically?
I mean, I would say we might be, getting into like a later stage, but I would say that really on a really basic level, you want to, decide at the beginning, what sort of differentiation are you looking for? So, do you just want to do this employer value proposition for your whole business and, build up like this sort of positioning on your business, and then, create whatever, like a main central image of you? Or do you want to do it on a more granular level and, sort of get into a stronger differentiation? And then the first one is, going to be a more central one. And the second one is going to be to more of your crucial functions. So you would have more of these propositions to each of your functions.
Okay, got it. Yeah. And, one thing that I've noticed with our client projects is that oftentimes when people want to jump into employer branding without like a clear culture and clear core values that they're actually practicing and living and breathing every day, it's going to be super hard, because most of the time what this whole thing comes down to in technology is that people are going to choose the company which are great workplaces. And everybody claims they have awesome projects. Everybody's got okay salaries or good salaries depending on the regions. So you're not going to really compete on salary that much for most of the positions in technology. Of course, it's a factor, but what it really comes down to is the air which people are going to breathe, even if they work from home. Okay, so in other words, it's going to be like the culture and the values. And if you just like pull up some bullshit document from a consultant that was prepared, I don't know, like 5 years ago about your core values, and nobody in the company can recite more than one of them, then or it's some completely vague and general stuff, it's not going to help. You're not going to go anywhere. So the very first step, if you're serious about attracting talent and good people to your company, is to get clear on your culture and your values and to really start living it, because everything is going to come through, what you live as a culture is going to come through in your job description and even more in the recruitment process. And it's really going to make a difference. And so with this one client where we started such a marketing initiative, what happened is that they were super clear about everything regarding values and their mentoring system and what they were building. So the whole thing started by doing video interviews with the CEO, who was just, jamming on a Zoom call he went on about why the company is a good place to work, like what some of their values were. And then he brought some examples from like the real life cases about how they actually lived those values and how those values manifested. Okay, so it's step number 0, which goes everything before what you just said, so like that 5-step process. Step 0 is to get super clear on your values and your internal culture.
So yeah, if you're looking at what you just described, so starting from the very basics, what is the culture in your company, and then building that picture up with whatever, as you said, in this case, we've started to do like these video interviews. That I would say that is the less strong, the little differentiation. And honestly, I'm getting most of these terms from, just to mention him, Armin Trost, and I hope I'm not butchering his name, but he's, a thought leader. He's one of, I think, the most well-known thought leader in employer branding and just human resources in general. And so he has these terms, branded house and then house of brands. So branded house would be when you're building up the general picture with not as much differentiation with you just mentioned. So creating, this sort of general corporate image or company image. And then house of brands would be when we get down to a more granular level. So we start to talk about different positions at the company. And so what might be, the values in that position, what sort of culture or atmosphere a team separately might have inside of the company.
Yeah. Okay, Zoli, what do you say that we dive into this process? Like creating an employer value proposition, that would be pretty much the first step after you have like culture and values down, right? So, yeah. So how do we go about doing that?
So I would say, the best thing to do, and I would say, let me just clear that up. Armin Trust says that the best thing to do is to do sort of these qualitative interviews with your people. So, and honestly, it's funny because as you said at the beginning, this is really similar to what we do with ABM. So this would be when you're trying to, filter down your target group, and when you're trying to be more specific on who you are targeting and what your message should convey to those people. And in this case, what you want to be doing is basically run these really qualitative interviews. So let's say that you're looking for a developer for a specific team, then you specifically want to talk to that team and people in that team. And you want to get into like a longer conversation with them. And instead of, handing out surveys of like 20 to 30 questions, you might just want to be focusing on like 2 questions, but make those questions count. So, ask them like, for instance, would you, in any case, recommend this job to one of your friends? And if yes, why? So what are the strengths, of this position that you're in? So that would be, I think, the very general basic level of this is just trying to understand the people that are already working in a similar position that you are trying to hire someone for. And, getting really deep into, okay, what is it that they actually value in their jobs?
Yeah. Yeah. So in any marketing play, what you're going to start with is interviewing the customers. And unsurprisingly, if you're marketing your company as an employer, you're going to start with your existing quote unquote customers, who are your existing workers. Yeah. And so it makes super sense. Yeah. And just let's get super tactical here, Zoli. So some of the things that we've been seeing is that when companies start speaking to, especially tech people like developers, you're going to get some pretty superficial answers to these questions right out of the gate. So they'll be like, yeah, I'm happy. All is good. Why do you like working here? Well, because we have a good time and we make good stuff. And so what to do in this case, because this doesn't really tell you that much. So you will want to dig deeper. And that's where the rule of the 5 whys come in. So if people say, okay, I like it, it's good, then you can go one level deeper. Okay, why is it good? Well, because, I don't know, people are nice. Okay, what do you mean people are nice? Like, how does that manifest? Well, it manifests in the fact that last time I screwed up something, nobody killed me. In fact, they encouraged me and they helped me see my mistakes. Okay, and how does that help you become a better developer, whatever? And you see where we're getting with this. So you're always digging deeper, and that's where the real gold is. Okay, it's the exact same situation and scenario and mindset as with customer interviews. So go deep with your people, and the ton of insight you're going to get about your company, your culture, is going to be mind-blowing. It's going to be mind-blowing. Yeah. It's like some things surface out that you will never recognize if you're just doing this from the boardroom and you're just making assumptions. So it's a really nice experiment to go and talk to people.
Exactly. And then, 2 things that really rang a bell with me, or that really felt like they're amazing points from Armin Trust framework, was when you are questioning your people, or I should rather say when you are running an interview with them. One thing that you can tell them is that assume that the job in question is the most boring job in the world, and then actively try to find the proof of being wrong. So basically you're telling them that your job, to me, it seems like this is the most boring job in the world. Obviously you're not trying to hurt them, but just, with this method, you are trying to find out, okay, it's not, you can prove me wrong, and you can tell me why it's not.
Okay, can we just do a little experiment, Zoli? So let's say I'm your employer, and then I ask you, okay, Zoli, your role is to be a growth marketer and an account manager for our B2B clients. So I would go and tell you that, okay, I think your job is the most boring one in the world. Is that how it goes? Okay.
Yeah, so basically you would tell me that you feel like this is a really, simple, boring job. And then I would go on about, talking, well, listen.
Okay, well, let's put who, I wish we were alive, because then we could say, who wants to put Zoli in the hot seat and have him answer this question? Like, I'm sure 100% of the people would agree. But even now that you're not watching live, you're probably, or as you're listening live, you would like to hear Zoli elaborate on this. Okay, so let's try this. Zoli, I think like what you're doing is super boring. I would like cut my veins if I were in your situation.
Yeah, so then I would pretty much tell you like, hey, there's like so many things I do. So I'm writing copy, I'm building up strategies, I'm working on different campaigns. I love that I work with, different companies or different clients from like vastly different industries. I get to talk to people in the data realm, people in the cybersecurity realm, people who are working with, large displays or whatever. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is that I get to do project management. I get to do, whatever, just executing copywriting, all of that. So yeah, it would go something like that. But obviously we would talk for preferably like an hour. And then I would get into like actual stories of what I like to do. So from that, you could, derive information that you can use in the job ad.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, those stories are gold. And then so I would probably like have a transcript of our conversation, and I could literally copy and paste some parts of what you said. Like, I would have never thought that it makes your job interesting that you talk with people all the way from Tokyo through Singapore to obviously Europe, and then perhaps in the Americas. So that's an exciting aspect of your job. Like, I would never have thought of that out of the gate, but that's something that we might put in a job advert, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly. Like one of the great points that he said relating to this was that once he was actually shadowing a truck driver for 2 days. So he was literally going on, the different drives with the person. And I guess, in general, if you think about truck driving, of course, you can, be creative and come up with some of the great fun aspects. But if you're actually doing the job, like shadowing someone who does it for 2, 3, whatever days, I guess you get a really good feel of, oh, this was, an interesting part. This was a fun part, whatever. And then it's much easier to build up the whole sense of why is it good to do that job instead of just saying we are driving this many kilometers, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Like, so straight out of the gate, when you're starting this thing, I wouldn't spend 3 days shadowing somebody, because like initially it's probably not a good use of your time, but that just shows you how far you can take this if you're in really competitive markets or for some really competitive positions. And what's going to be the result of writing a killer job description that includes this insight? Obviously, it's going to be that like bells are going to go off for the right person reading it. And they're going to be like, whoa, like this is about me. Like I want this. And immediately your job advert is going to stand out.
Yeah, exactly. So that's, again, related to what we are doing for our clients. We have this client that you talked about in the data realm, one of the development companies that we work with. And, although they put this huge effort into, creating their culture and nurturing it on the long term and all of that. And I guess they are really, really interested in, just showing people interested in them, how they are setting up their inner culture. And yet when they wrote their first job ads that they wanted us to, check on or whatever, tweak it, it looked exactly the same as all of the other job ads in the market.
True. Yeah. And I'm glad. So now we get to this point of the job advert. So we talked about like how to get the right information for your job ads, like how to get it out of the people. But obviously it's not enough to get it out of the people. You can still write shitty job ads with the right information. So what are some things that we should look out for? For example, like, okay, what has to be in the right job ad? What is it that people should include but don't regularly include? Or just how do you go about this, Soli?
So going back to the beginning, at the very beginning, I talked about the employee value proposition, the EVP. And basically, I think that is something that, if you're straight out of the gate, you don't want to get really granular with this whole employer branding thing. You just want to be focusing on what is it that you are giving as a value, what is the value that you're providing to the people who are interested in you. And then, we talked about these 3 different things. So one would be, what are your strengths as an employer? Why do people love to work with you? So that would be the interview part that we just talked about. what are the competitor strengths. That doesn't mean obviously that you want to be talking about the competition, but you want to have that in mind when you're setting up a job ad, so that you would know what is it that makes you unique, what is it that's different from all of the other people in your realm. And then obviously the target group's preferences. So what is it that they are specifically interested in? Because if you're providing the same sort of thematical job ad to all of your positions, you're probably not going to be able to find that special someone that you want to be hiring.
Yeah. Okay, we got an example. Like I know when we were preparing for this job ad came up, which was probably one of the first known like awesome job ads that goes to tell you how you should be open and honest. And it's sort of a joke on the one hand, but here's this Ernest Shackleton job ad, which was made for people who were going on the Arctic expeditions, that
so
on these multi-year journeys.
Yeah, so this was made back in 1914 when Ernest Shackleton was looking for pretty much people for his expedition for, I think it was as you said,
Antarctica. Yeah, they wanted to get to the South Pole, and there was a huge race and a competition between him and Scott.
Yeah, so it reads, "Men wanted for hazardous journey, low wages, bitter cold, long hours of complete darkness, safe return doubtful." So at the beginning, if you read this, all of this sounds horrible. Like, why would you want to say this in a job ad? But then the last line is honor and recognition in event of success. And then you would say, like, obviously with your whatever today, if you hear honor and recognition, you wouldn't really want to go on an most of us probably wouldn't want to go on this expedition. But what's really great about this is it has really all of the parts of EVP. So, you straight out of gate are being really honest. You're telling what the job will entail, what will be, all of the circumstances and responsibilities with the job. But then you're telling, like, what is it that you're getting out of it?
Yeah, exactly. And, what this has is for the right person, which is 0.0001% of the population. That's who's supposed to, say yes to this job ad and apply. It totally makes sure that they get rid of the people who are not suitable for this job. And for that very, very tiny percentage of the people, that's music to their ears, because of course they know that these journeys are hazardous, and of course they know that it's going to be cold. But if you're straight out, you're straight about it, it just carries power, because it has the power of authenticity. It gets rid of the wrong people, like it puts off the wrong people, and it just makes the whole thing that much more attractive.
Yeah, exactly. Like, think about it. Why would you want to be sugarcoating it and then get people on an expedition who wouldn't know what to do on it? Like that doesn't really work. And you can apply this whole methodology or framework to maybe a development job. Why would you want to get someone who wouldn't really fit with the culture that you're looking for just by sugarcoating or making your job ad sound really something that is not the actual job? It's not about the actual job.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So do we have an example from a client that we created, Zori?
Yeah. So just to quickly,
I bet you got something on your screen that you can share.
Yeah. So just to quickly set this up, this was really an idea that came from one of my friends who's a growth marketer in Belgium. And then he told me this idea about using scrollytelling for job ads as well. And the reason why I really like the idea, and the reason why I felt like it's really usable for this particular clients of ours, was that, again, as I said before, they really had the right culture. They have the right culture. They are really keen on, keeping and nurturing this culture up on the long term. And yet still their job ads look the same as everyone else's. So then I said, hey, how about creating something a bit different, which would, maybe tell people looking for a job that you are actually different. So yeah, basically the setup here is that instead of a usual template like job ad, this is something that as you are scrolling down, you're getting, more and more information. The story basically builds up as you're scrolling down.
It's very conversational. So you're having a conversation with the reader.
Yeah. And then what you see here is at the beginning, we talk about why do people love to work with us? So we don't start with, like responsibilities and like requirements. We start with, hey, why would it be fun for you to work with us? which I think is a major difference to most of the job ads that you see out there.
That's something that you should prioritize basically now, because it's right now an employee's market or a candidate's market where they have the upper hand. So in most situations, it's not about you getting to choose from 125 people who are just dying to work there. But in technology, you're really in the races for the right candidate.
Yeah, so if you don't have this abundance of talent pool and you're not selecting from them, but you're more so trying to attract people, then you want to be, focusing on what is it that they are getting if you're working with you, and not just the basics of like this and that, hours, whatever, but just why is it fun for others to work with you. And then as you can see here, we talk about community building programs. So then we get into like what type of people work with us, which I think again is a major difference to what you usually see. And then, later on, we start to talk about the skill set, obviously, that is required for the job. But this is only after we talked about who you would be or what sort of community would you be working in. And then now we look at, the skill set that is required from your end. And then once we talked about that, I think one of the really interesting parts about this as well is that we talk about the team a bit. So we actually show the team. We actually show like what is it that they believe in, what are their mantras, with regards to work or whatever, which again, I think is a major attraction point, because I guess for whoever, whatever sort of job you're looking for, even if you're an introverted person, you want to be making sure that you're not going to be working with people that wouldn't fit with you, or you wouldn't be a great fit for their team or whatever.
Yeah, and again, you have media in there, so don't be shy with media. You don't just want picture of the entire team with nobody recognizable, but you want pictures of everyday situations, or the opposite, or I don't know, team building exercises, or people getting together at the pub, even videos if you've got videos of the team.
Yeah,
so you are marketing, you are trying to sell your company to the candidate here, so make sure you use every resource available.
And then, it's not just a one-sided thing. It's not just about you finding the person by, selling your company in a better picture. You are literally showing what sort of people they would be joining, so that you would find someone and, spend your resources on someone that would actually fit into your team or whatever, into your setup. Because if you're not doing this and, you are wasting your resources on people that for whatever reason are not a good fit, then you're really shooting yourself in the leg as well. And then the last bit of this is just like, which is, I wouldn't say it's necessary, but it could be a really fun thing as well to add. Like, it just adds more insight to the job. Is like, how would an average week be set up? So what would an average week entail? Yeah. What sort of stuff you would be expecting to do, or you could expect to do working with us?
Yeah, that's a good feature. Like, outline the typical day or the typical week, whichever is more appropriate. So yeah, that's a great feature to add to job posts.
Yeah, exactly. And then one of the other things that I wanted to just really quickly touch up on is that when you're running the interviews that we talked about before, you want to be, mindful of the learned expectation levels of the people that you're interviewing, because they might think that something is, like normal and everyday, so they won't mention it. But then maybe it's actually a great selling point for the job. So let's say that, in your company, people can come up with their own ideas, and they have a platform to tell their ideas, and then, it gets processed and whatever. That might not be something that happens in a lot of businesses. So that is actually a major, almost a unique value proposition that you are providing there.
Or you might think that, having breakfast together with your department every Friday morning, that's standard, but mention it, because it might just be the hook that gets the right candidate.
Exactly. And then what I would say finally with regards to this is that you also want to be, just as with any sort of marketing activity or any sort of marketing strategy, you want to be really mindful of what your goal is. So, if your goal is that you want to attract everyone, so you want to make everyone think that your workplace is the best in the world, that is going to be something that is really, really expensive, and that is not really feasible on the long term, likely. So really, it just depends on what your goal is.
Yeah. Okay. So if you've been following along, and if you've got your mind wrapped around account-based marketing, then employer branding or employer marketing should be second nature. Okay. So the steps always start with having a clear vision about what you are and what you are as a company and your culture. So be real mindful of that and make sure that you actually live by those values, which you have hopefully somewhere written down on paper. And once you have that down, all you need is a good process to create the perfect job ad and then to reach out to the perfect candidates, to the right candidates. Okay, so Zoli, can you take us through that process once again, just on a high level?
Yeah, so I would say that you want to be starting with setting up your EVP, your employee value proposition. What is it that you offer as an employer? What are your competitors' strengths? What is unique, compared to them in your business? And then what is your target group's preferences? So basically an ICP, almost like an ICP, an ideal customer profile. Who is it that you're targeting? Then, as said before, you want to make sure that you figure out what sort of differentiation you want to be doing. So is it like, just an EVP for the whole company, for the whole business, or is it more on the granular level down to functions, which I think is a better approach. And you want to be running these job attraction interviews with people that you are trying to, get new colleagues for. So if there's a specific function that you are trying to hire to, then, talk to the people that already work in similar positions or in the team, and then find out what is it that they actually like about that position or that team or whatever. And then finally, on a graph of like liked and known, you want to be deciding how well liked and well known you want to be at the same time. Because obviously, if you want to be really well known and really well liked, that's going to be really expensive. But I don't think that you want to be doing that. Just as we, marketing, first focus on like a smaller segment. You really just talk to the people that would make a good addition to your company. And then obviously, as you're growing, you can, expand that to more and more people, more and more functions.
Exactly. Awesome. So thank you for sticking with us, everybody. And we're going to be back with another really cool topic in 1 week. And in the meantime, follow us, subscribe, hit the bell button on LinkedIn, hit the bell button on YouTube, hit the bell everywhere. And we hope to see you on TikTok as well, which is the new platform which we're experimenting on. And I wouldn't be surprised if we had a few spin-off topics for TikTok about employer branding coming real soon. Okay, so follow Zoli, follow me on TikTok, and we'll see you there. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.